All right, we are talking riots. We're talking about destroying a Denny's in a gross, heinous fashion, and also talking about a truly destructive hero. Ah, fuck. Give it that again. I'm taking it again.
Let's do it. We're live, baby.
All right, here we are. We're talking riots, destroying a Denny's in a truly heinous fashion, also a destructive heroin habit. We must be talking about Sublime. Welcome, discos, to the after party, and a special welcome to our new followers on Twitch to Disgraceland Talks, who are watching us stream this right now. My producer, Taylor Bettinson, is joining me today to discuss Sublime's legacy, break down their most disgraceful events that happened in our latest episode of Disgraceland, and we're going to hand out a few awards. Taylor, get in here, my man. Lay it on me. What year were you listening to Sublime?
No, I was right in the sweet spot. I mean, I definitely the self-titled album that came out, and Bradley dying in that was '96. I was still in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school. I was a fifth grader, so I would say I was listening to them a lot more in middle and high school for sure. But I was
Yeah.
right in that sweet spot generationally. They were on the playlists all the time. They were on the radio.
I wasn't I wasn't ride or die for Sublime. I wasn't playing their records actively, but I did always love that. I loved that guy's voice. His voice is just it kind of grabs you and it pulls you in, and it's something that still to this day, if I hear them on the radio, I don't change. I will definitely, and I'm there for it. And it has everything to do, I feel like, with the guy's voice. He's got a great, great voice. And I feel like it's not something that gets talked about all that often. The first award is the Jerry Lee Lewis Award for the most disgraceful scene. We are calling back to our first episode on Jerry Lee Lewis, who, of course, the term Disgraceland comes from. I'm not going to belabor what I've already belabored. You can go listen to the first episode if you haven't heard it yet. So, Taylor, the award for the most disgraceful scene in this Sublime episode, the nominees are the Long Beach riot at their first show. We've got a dog defecating at the record label's office, and more defecation, human waste happening at Denny's. I want you to take the listeners through these categories, and then we're going to choose one to go with here.
Yeah, I mean, the Long Beach riot opens our episode and is, definitely the true crimiest. So I think that's a strong candidate. It's a great scene. You really get to know the band fast. It really moves. Great production. So I think that's pretty top tier. Sublime's Dalmatian crapping on a record label office floor is just kind of a funny anecdote, but that's like bronze medalist of these three to me easily. Just a fun anecdote in the episode, but by far the grossest act and probably the most like social. I mean, a riot is pretty antisocial, but specifically what they did at a Denny's was they emptied the septic tank, like the sewage tank, from their RV, their touring RV, all over the Denny's floor because they hated the service they got there. So that's, not just human waste, but vomit and like cleaner, all the like the neon colors. You can learn more about it in the episode, but I would actually put it over the riot. For me, I would say the human waste dump at a Denny's is probably the most disgraceful scene in the episode.
Truly disgusting. Truly, truly disgusting. I have to say I wasn't surprised at all. It seemed like exactly like what a bunch of scuzzy punk rock surf dudes from Southern California would do when pissed off at the probably overworked and underpaid Denny's employees at the time. You can hear the full details in the episode. I don't want to go into it anymore. I'm getting grossed out even thinking about it. Let's move on to category number 2, which we're calling the Dennis Wilson Award for most fucked up decision by an artist. Dennis Wilson, of course, of the Beach Boys, in his infinite wisdom, made the decision to champion Charles Manson as a musician and try to get him signed to a record label, which didn't happen. It was an awful decision. It kicked off a series of murders in Hollywood in 1969, thus the title of this award for the most fucked up decision within this episode. Again, we're leaning into this Denny's waste dump. That's also making it in here as the first selection. The second nominee is bad fishing. Let's explain. This is awful, and I have no sense of humor about this. I couldn't believe when I read this. I couldn't believe when I heard that this was something that Bradley got up to. It seems truly dark and messed up. Why don't you explain to people who don't know what bad fishing is?
Yeah, I didn't know this either. And growing up listening to Sublime, one of their songs is called Bad Fish, and I never got the reference as an innocent suburban teen. But basically, bad fishing is when you break the sort, there's like honor among thieves, right? Among junkies, among heroin users, there was something of a code of conduct where you do not induct someone else into that lifestyle. And bad fishing is when you introduce other people to the heroin habit. And Brad would do this. He thought he was like sharing the drug experience. So that's a very fucked up thing. I think that immediately for me claims the Dennis Wilson Award in this episode. Even starting a riot at a show is something we see in other episodes, but expanding heroin habits to other people is really dark stuff.
Yeah, it's truly dark. It gets at the guy's nature, and I don't want to judge this guy, but this is brutal, man. And to me, this is, we're kind of making light of a lot of this behavior with our category names here. But this to me is also the most disgraceful thing that happens in this episode for sure. Truly fucked up. Okay, so number one song from our artist, Santeria, Doing Time, Smoke Two Joints.
There's a bunch
For me,
more
it's
on the next
definitely,
page because this is where I was like, what were all the ones I listened to
uh,
growing up? I'm just going to rattle them all off here.
yeah. I was going to say that the song I would pick was not on here, which it actually is. You've got Wrong Way, which is the song I would pick. 40 Ounces to Freedom, KRS-One, Pawn Shop, What I Got, April 29th, 1992. So, I mean, there's some all-timers here. Santeria, Smoke Two Joints, Wrong Way, What I Got, but I go Wrong Way.
Yeah, I kind of thought I was in drawing up our notes. I was expecting you to go Santeria because I know you were listening to it when we were doing like promo for the episode, and it is, I think, probably the track of theirs that holds up best, just like popping on and it's relaxing and it can fit into a playlist with you today. And it's their top streaming pick on Spotify. All that said, I was also like, oh, Wrong Way, though. Wrong Way is just such a jam. I played that so many times. So I'll go with you. Let's go with Wrong Way. I think that's great.
I mean, these songs, as I look at them, sort of track listed out here, I know they're not in sequence, but I mean, there's a lot. There's kind of like there are these certain bands from these eras where you put them on at a party and it doesn't matter if everybody's got a few drinks in them. It doesn't matter what style of music they're into. They're going to be into that artist. Like the Jay Giles band is like that. Like someone said that to me when I was a little kid. I was like, fuck Jay Giles band. They're like, I'm telling you, man. And this is like a hardcore kid, older hardcore kid. He's like, you put that shit on at any party and people are going to be into it. And he was right. And I feel like you can say something similar about Sublime. Final category. This is where we are rating the episodes on sort of a true crime / disgraceful scale. We're going to award 1 to 5 zombie Elvises based on how disgraceful this subject was. So for this one, I mean, as disgraceful as hooking up newbies who have never shot heroin with heroin is, which is unforgivable, and I have a hard time even talking about it. I find it to be so disgraceful. I still think this is a pretty it's pretty middle for me. I mean, this episode, this subject matter. I mean, I would not go more than 3. I think zombie Elvis is here, just because this episode doesn't. It's the tale of one guy fighting this ongoing demon, as opposed to other Disgraceland episodes where we have subjects where it's just kind of like rapid fire neck turning. This happened, then holy shit, this guy did this thing, and then they did this fucking thing, and then this happened to them. This is more of a slow burn that ends up in the worst possible place, which is disgraceful, but nonetheless, it's not a sort of plethora of disgraceful activity. So I'm going to go with 3. All right, man. Thanks for this. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for checking this out. Thanks for following the podcast and all of our antics on social media. We will see you shortly. Rock-a-rolla.